This is chapter 20, practice problem number 2, specifically exercise 20-6, where I will be using the weighted average method to determine the cost per equivalent units of production. So that's EUP, and the cost assigned to output. So this looks like this is a company here that has two manufacturing departments, forming department and the painting department. All right, so the company uses the weighted average method and it reports the following unit data for the forming department. Okay, so um, this means that the data that you see here is coming from the forming department. Okay, um, now it has on here the units that is within the forming department that's classified or sitting in their beginning work in process inventory account, and also the ending work in process inventory account, and then the units that were started during the period, and the units that were completed and transferred out from the forming department into the painting department. So from department A to department B. And so we have on here um, direct materials and conversion costs, or direct materials and conversion. So it lets us know that 60% of the units that was in beginning work in process inventory is in respect to direct materials, and 40% is in respect to conversion costs. Or I keep saying costs, conversion. And so conversion stands for, or consists of, your direct labor and overhead. All right, so conversion, that word is, it relates to direct labor and overhead because, well, you have direct materials. The direct materials, without anyone assembling the materials into its finishing condition, it's just going to be sitting there. So you need to convert those raw materials or direct materials into its finishing condition. And in order for you to do that, you need assembly workers, and assembly workers are going to have their wages be classified as direct labor. All right. And for overhead, well, you need a factory or facility or warehouse to conduct your business, to produce products. So this is why direct labor and overhead are considered conversion, conversion costs or conversion, because you're converting the raw materials into its finishing product. That's the goal. All right. So then we have right below cost information for the production process within the forming department. And so we have dollar amounts here. So we have letters A through C. So our job is to tackle each letter one by one. So I'm going to start with letter A. So letter A, it says calculate the equivalent units of production for both direct materials and conversion for the forming department. Now, just to briefly mention or talk a little bit about EUP, equivalent units of production. So this is a type of method that you use to assign costs to partially completed items or units. All right. So since they are partially completed, meaning that these are units that are going to be, transferred, and also eventually transfer, or eventually transfer from one department into another department, and you have to assign a cost eventually to those units in order to manage the costs of what's happening during the process of producing a mass number of units. So we're going to start off by going over a couple of things that needs to be included in order for us to figure out what the equivalent units of production is for direct materials and conversion. So first thing we need to do is consider the completed and transferred out. So the units that were completed and transferred out from one department into another department. And then the next one is the ending work in process, the ending WIP account or inventory account. We need to also consider that as well. Okay. So again, this is both section here. They're coming from the forming department. So the first department. So I'm going to go ahead and set up this little table here. I'm going to put over here the units that were completed and transferred out. Okay. And then right below it, ending work in process WIP inventory. Okay. So the units that were completed and transferred out consist of 295,000. Units that were in the ending WIP inventory is 30,000. Okay. So for direct materials, when it comes to the units that are completed and transferred out, usually, because I don't want to say always, but usually 100% of the direct materials are going to be assigned to the units that were completed and transferred out from the first department into the next department or second department. So we're going to put on here 100% because we're dealing with percentages here. What percentage of units are in respect to direct materials? All right, so it's 100% of the units that were completed and transferred out. Then for ending work in process inventory, where they give us a percentage and it's 80% in respect to direct materials. Okay, so I have to actually pull out my calculator here. So the EUP is we're going to basically take 295,000 units multiplied by 100%. That's just 295,000. And then 30,000 multiplied by 80%. So 80% of 30K, that's going to give us 24,000. Okay, so we should be sitting at 319,000 for EUP. And now we're going to go to conversion here. Okay, for conversion, same as direct materials for the completed and transferred out units from one department to the next. 100% of the conversions is going to be applied to all of the units. So 100% of the units that's completed and transferred out from department A to department B, from forming to painting. And then ending work in process inventory of 30,000, they give us 30% for conversion. And so that's what we're going to do, 30%. So our EUP for conversion is going to be 295,000. And then 30% of 24,000, that should give us, let's see, making sure that my math is correct. So 24,000, 30% of 24,000. Oh, I'm doing this incorrectly. So you're saying this live. So I'm not going to pause this and do it all over again. It's 30% of 30,000 units. So that's going to give us 9,000. Okay, so 30%. Okay, 30% of 30,000 units. So I was looking at the wrong number. I was looking at this here. All right, so 295,000 plus 9,000. That's going to give us 304,000 for EUP for conversion. Okay, so that's letter A. Now we go to letter B. Letter B, we have to calculate the cost per equivalent unit of production for both direct materials and conversion for the forming departments. So now this is where we drop down to this data here that's provided to us. That's the cost production here. And we need to kind of do some math here, work with the numbers. So I'm going to put over here direct materials, set up two columns here, direct materials and conversion. All right. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and take our costs per the beginning work in process. So cost of beginning WIP. Okay, and the cost for beginning WIP specifically for direct materials is going to be $44,800. Okay, so we're only going to be focused on direct materials. And now we're going to bring in the costs that's added during the period. So that's going to be a plus $1,231,200. Okay, so our total costs comes out to be $1,276,000. All right. So now what we have to do for letter B, they tell us to calculate the cost per equivalent units of production. Okay, so for direct materials, we're just going to bring in this 319,000 units here that was computed in letter A, and we're going to divide the 1.276 million by that number, 319. All right, and so that's going to give us costs per EUP, equivalent units of production, of $4. Right. Now we're going to do the same thing for conversion, but we're going to be using different numbers. Okay, so for conversion, it gives us a beginning work in process for $15,300. Okay, that's our beginning WIP. Then the cost that's added in this period is what, $896,700. Okay, so we're going to add that amount. So that's going to give us $912,000. And now we're going to bring in the EUP that was calculated in letter A. So that's going to be $304,000 for conversion. So we're going to divide 912,000 by 304,000. That's going to give us a cost per EUP. Let me zoom out here of $3. All right. Okay. Now we're moving on to letter C. We're almost done. So letter C. Let me zoom in so you can see better. So now letter C, it says using the weighted average method, assign costs to the forming department's output, specifically its units transferred to painting. Okay, units transferred to painting and its ending work in process. Okay. So we're just going to go to letter A because we're just concerned with the units that are completed and transferred out from from forming to painting, and then the ending WIP account. That's what we're focused on, just those two. So our job is to assign those costs using the weighted average method to the units that were completed and transferred out in the ending working process. So we're going to be using a combination of letter A, the information from letter A, and also the information from letter B. Okay, so we're going to start off with assigning the cost to completed units that were completed and transferred out. Okay, so we're going to set it up with direct materials first, and then conversion second. All right, so the EUP, this is calculated in letter A for direct materials. Let me just go ahead and scroll up. Okay, so we are focused on direct materials, so we're going to bring in the 295,000. Okay, let me zoom in. That was 100% in respect to direct materials. Okay, the cost per EUP in respect to direct materials was calculated in letter B, and that's our $4. So our total cost comes out to be $1.180 million. Okay, conversion. The EUP there is going to be also 295,000. That's calculated from letter A. The cost per EUP, which was calculated in letter B for conversion, is $3. So the total comes out to be $885,000. Now, just so you know, when it comes to computing the total cost, I'm taking the EUP and multiplying it by the cost per equivalent units of production. Okay. So then our total cost comes out to be $2,065,000. And that's in respect to the units that were completed and transferred out from forming department into the painting department for direct materials and conversion. All right, so this is going to be the total completed and transferred out. Okay, next we're going to figure out how to assign costs to the work in process, ending WIP inventory in respect to direct materials and conversion. So it's going to be the same setup: direct materials and then conversion. And let's start with the direct materials. So the EUP in respect to, let's see, direct materials for ending work in process. Go back up here to letter A. Okay, letter A, this is for work in process. So you have to make sure that you are making sure that you're grabbing the correct numbers. So we're looking at ending WIP, and we're going to go ahead and grab the 24,000. Place that underneath or right beside the direct materials. Okay, and then the cost per EUP that was calculated in letter B, that comes out to be $4. All right, so 24,000 multiplied by $4, our cost comes out to be $96,000. Okay, for conversion, we're going to bring in this 9,000. For EUP from letter A, cost per EUP is going to come from letter B, and that's going to be our $3. All right, so 9,000 times $3 comes out to be $27,000. And so we add 96,000 to 27,000. That's going to come out to be 123,000. And that's going to be our total costs, total ending WIP. Okay, so our total cost assigned, we're going to now take our $2,065,000 plus 123,000. That's going to come out to be $2,188,000. That's our total cost that's accounted for direct materials and conversion in respect to completed and transferred out. So the units that were completed and transferred out from Department A, the forming department to department B, the painting department, and also in respect to ending work in process inventory. Um, that's in respect to direct materials and conversion for both what's completed and transferred out, and also what's still in ending work in process inventory for the forming department.